Hey kiddos, so today we're reading this book again, From Cone to Pine Tree. Pine cones grow into trees. How do they do it? I don't know, let's check it out. A pine tree makes pine cones. Pine trees make male pine cones and female pine cones. Male pine cones grow near the bottom of the tree. Female pine cones grow farther up. Okay, so remember, males are down at the bottom, so this is probably a boy, and that one, and that one. That one back there. And then these ones up here are probably the girl pine cones, right? The pine cones make pollen and egg cells. Male pine cones make pollen and female pine cones make egg cells. Pollen and the egg cells need to come together for more trees to be made. Okay. So pollen is for the boys and egg cells are for the girls, right? Okay. The pine cones let their pollen out. When the air temperature is just right in the spring, the male pine cones open up. They let their pollen out. It falls to the ground. See all that yellow dust on the ground? Almost looks like sand. That's pollen, and that's what falls to the ground when the male pine cones open up. They let this fall to the ground. So remember, we're focusing on pollen. So what is pollen and what does it do? So pollen is inside the male pine cone, and we're going to find out what it does right now. The pollen fertilizes the egg cells. Wind carries the pollen up near the top of the pine tree where the female pine cones grow. The pollen lands on the female cones. It combines with the egg cells inside the female cones. This is called fertilization. Okay, so what it does is the wind carries all of this pollen to the top of the trees where the female pine cones are, and the pollen lands on the female cones, and it gets inside of the cones and it fertilizes the egg. Fertilizes means it's coming together to make another pine cone, and that pine cone is going to end up becoming a new tree. Okay? Next, seeds grow inside the pine cones. After fertilization, seeds begin to grow inside the female cones. Remember, we talked about those seeds right here. But fertilization takes a long time. It can take a whole year. In that year, the female pine cones grow too. They turn into the large woody cones you may have seen. So I don't know about you guys, but I have pine trees in my yard and I see these all the time. But I've never opened one up, so I'm going to open one up later and I'm going to see if they have seeds in them or not. And if you guys have a pine tree, you should see if you guys have a pine cone on the ground if they have seeds. The cone protects the pine tree seeds. As the seeds in the female cones grow, the cones shelter the seeds. The hard wood outside the cone keeps the seeds safe inside. Even mature seeds stay safe. They are tucked between the petals of the cone. So remember, petals are on the outside like a flower. And these are the seeds on the inside that are being protected by the petals. Then the pine cones open up. Once all the seeds are mature, the pine cones are ready to scatter the seeds. The cones open up their petals. Now the seeds can get out. Okay, so this is what it means when it says that they open up their petals, because remember the petals are on the outside and they let their seeds out. And the seeds are in between the petals. The pine cones scatter their seeds. The pine cones release the seeds into the air. Wind and animals help scatter the seeds so they can land in good spots to grow. So here's a squirrel. Remember, that's a baby pine cone. He's helping scatter them so that the seeds can grow in different spots around the forest. The seeds grow into pine trees. Seeds that land in a good soil push down roots and push up needles. They grow into baby pine trees. Little trees get bigger. When the trees are grown, they make male and female pine cones. The cycle begins again. Okay, so here's a baby pine tree. So he pushed down the roots and he's pushing up the needles. Needles are all the brown pieces in the picture. And he pushed his way up and he's growing into a baby pine tree. Okay. Let's go over some words in our glossary. So combines. So when the pollen and the egg cell combines, it means the pollen and the egg cells are blending together. Okay. Egg cells. They're very small parts that form an egg. Think of like a chicken egg. Okay, but it's inside the pine cone and it's not a chicken egg. I'm just doing a representation, okay? Think of that kind of egg. Fertilization mixes the egg cells to make new life. So that's when the pollen and the egg cells come together, they get fertilized and they make new life, which means they make more seeds. Okay? Mature. That means it's fully grown. Pollen. Pollen is a powder that is made by the male plant that he releases. Remember all that yellow dust we saw in that picture? That's what pollen is, and that's what you're writing about today. You're writing about pollen. So pollen is a powder that a male plant releases. Temperature. How hot or cold something is. So for a seed to be able to grow, the temperature has to be perfect outside for the males to release the pollen. Means it can't be too hot and it can't be too cold. It has to be right in between. Okay, kiddos, so that's all we got today, okay? So you're writing about what pollen does, okay? And how it helps make seeds. All right, I hope you have a good day, okay? Bye.